Okay, Phil Lee returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. It's now Sunday, the 27th of December, 2020. And during this Christmas time, I want to discuss an episode I've called Lee and the Wise Men. So before we get started, I want to remind you, click on the upper right in the YouTube frame of this video on the notification bell. And that way you will be notified whenever there's a new episode of Inside Digital Media presented. Okay, let me pull up my notes and we'll begin with this little episode I've called Lee and the Wise Men. After Robert E. Lee surrendered his army of Northern Virginia on Palm Sunday, 1865, probably no man was in a better position to persuade Southerners to accept the verdict of the war. This became clear over the ensuing weeks as the other Confederate armies surrendered. As explained in my December 8th video about 2 weeks ago, no man was more beloved throughout the South during the war than was Lee, despite contrary claims by some modern historians. They falsely argue that his reputation was only artificially created by a conspiracy of ex-Confederate officers who weaved a web of so-called lies known as the, quote, lost cause narrative. It's all bogus. Nonetheless, the falsehood of their narrative is revealed by none other than Union General Ulysses Grant himself, among others, who requested a second meeting with Robert E. Lee the day after he accepted Lee's surrender. Lee's biographer, Douglas Southall Freeman, describes the scene. Grant began by telling Lee that his interest was in peace and in the surrender of the other Confederate armies. Grant added that there was no man in the South whose influence with the soldiers and with the people was as great as Lee's. And if Lee would advise the surrender of all armies, Grant believed they would lay down their arms. For his part, Lee believed that Grant's proposal was a question for President Davis. He promptly said that he could not advise the remaining Confederate armies without first consulting the president. Grant understood Lee's viewpoint and did not attempt to persuade him differently. Shifting the subject, Lee talked of the paroling of the army, his army, and asked that the instructions of the officers who were arranging the details should be made so explicit that no misunderstanding could arise. Lee was seeking assurances concerning two factors. First, that his men would not be imprisoned because Grant's surrender terms provided that they, quote, will be allowed to return to their homes, not to be disturbed by United States authority so long as they observe their paroles and the law in force where they may reside, close quote. Second, that each Confederate claiming to own a horse or a mule will be allowed to take the animals home with them. Thus, by deferring to civil authority, Lee refused to take authority away from President Davis and the remaining Confederate armies to decide for themselves their future course of action. He could have easily taken such dictatorial authority, but it was not within his character. Nonetheless, it was obvious that Lee had already become the only symbol of resistance that mattered among fellow Southerners. Consequently, all Confederate armies surrendered within 2 months of Appomattox, notwithstanding that tens of thousands of Confederates remained under arms after Lee surrendered. Again, Freeman summarizes, Southern civilians saw in Lee the embodiment of the faith and piety they believed a just heaven would favor. Among such people of faith, during the last year of the struggle, Lee became a kind of spiritual mediator for his nation. The army, seeing him in battle, put his ability first and his character second. The civilian population, observing him from afar, rated his character even more than his ability. About 45 days after Lincoln was assassinated, President Andrew Johnson announced that he would grant amnesty to ex-Confederates if they would take a new loyalty oath to the Union and agree to various other stipulations. Many were resentful of the new oath because they considered that their prior parole oaths at Appomattox and other surrenders elsewhere covered the matter. Johnson's new oath, some inferred, suggested that the words given in their parole oaths, their words given in their parole oaths, could not be taken at face value or would not be taken at face value. They considered that an insult to their honor. Lee, however, took the oath, and nothing aroused more anger against him among diehard secessionists than compliance with that oath. But he wanted to make an example of reconciliation. And one story underscores the point. When the son of a former Virginia governor, Henry Wise, told his dad that he had taken the oath, the father barked, "You have disgraced the family." But the son, who had been a Confederate soldier, replied, "But General Lee advised me to do it." "Oh," said the father, "that alters the case. Whatever General Lee says is all right. I don't care what it is." That little story tells you the influence that Lee had during his lifetime and shortly after the war. It was just as strong during the war. But to get more information on Lee, let me just bring this up now. I want to bring your attention to this book, my book, The Confederacy at Flood Tide. It describes the Civil War, or the war between the states, from June 1862 to September 1862. Excuse me, yeah, June 62 to December of 1862, when I believe that the South had its best chance for winning its independence. So you can get a copy of this, The Confederacy at Flood Tide, at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. That's $28 there. And if you want a signed copy, you can get that directly from me. I charge $31, which includes delivery in the United States. And what you should do if you want that is email me, Phil, P-H-I-L _Lee, L-E-I-G-H, at me.com. Let me know that you want a signed copy of the Confederacy at Flood Tide, and we'll make arrangements to get it delivered to you and arrange for you to pay for it. You can pay with credit card, PayPal, various ways. Okay, again, December 27th, 2020, during the holiday season. This Lee and the Wise Men episode is brought to you today by me, Philip Lee, and thank you for watching.